Every team has this moment where for the very first time their car rolls out the garage with all the hopes and dreams and it sets sail into uncharted territory. This is F1 25 My Team Career Mode. Oh, it's good to be back, ladies and gents. It is good to be back saying welcome to my F1 25 My Team Career Mode. It has been an entire game cycle since the last time we played a My Team Career, and on this year's game, we have the revamp. My Team 2.0 starts right here.
As the owner of the newest team in F1, your first job should be introducing yourself to the team.
All right, seems simple enough. Of course, for the first time in My Team Career Mode now, we're setting ourselves up just as the team owner of this newest team on the F1 grid, going with the name Aarava Archer, as usual in the series. A little nice nod to the Archer name from what is now like 9-10 years ago to a series I did on the original Motorsport Manager PC game. Always like to have that little Easter egg in lore for those of you who've been with me watching videos for that long on the channel. And of course, it's that very lore that's going to tie into our team name for this career mode. But just choosing our avatar here, I feel like this one is probably the most appropriate one out of the selection. I would have liked a few more faces, I can't lie, but we're just going to go with what we've got.
Now we know a bit more about you. Let's explore your background ahead of our first season. Hey there, my name's Andrew. I'm your head of personnel. Be useful for the team to know a bit more about your background. Give them a sense of how you intend to lead our efforts.
Background, okay. So for the first time, we're actually giving some context to, where we've been as a person, as a team owner before we establish this Formula One team then. We've got people manager. Every organization is made up of people, and managing people has been your speciality ever since you started climbing the ladder. You know that the team is only good as the people in it and are committed to empowering and developing your staff to allow them to reach their full potential. The skills in this area will allow you to motivate your workforce to complete facility improvements quicker. So not only is this context and background, but it'll actually give you a starting owner perk skill that will benefit you from the off. We've got head engineer. You might suffer the boardroom and the politics, but the garage has always been where you felt most at home. Your team success will be measured on track, making this endeavor primarily an engineering challenge, and you've always loved those. Your experience and knowledge in that field will pay great dividends given the nature of the team and its goals. So your expertise in this area allows you to earn more resource points per week. And finally, we've got the CFO. No F1 team can survive without sound grasp of financials, and your skill at juggling not just the numbers, but the relationships, the politics, the ebb and flow of negotiations is renowned throughout the industry. You're not just managing a team, you're managing a brand, an idea, a legacy even, and you're determined to be remembered. Your judicious accounting allows you to earn more cash per week. Now, the blurb, the context of that actually sounds a bit of me, the whole managing a brand, an idea, a legacy. You guys would have kind of seen a little bit of that in my prequel video yesterday to kind of set up a bit of story and lore to this entire series. But if we are actually a bit more realistic maybe in real life, I am an aerospace engineering graduate. It's been some time now, but I did actually go to university to try and study engineering to get into Formula One. So I feel like the head engineer suits me personally quite well, and the perk of having more resource points per week I think is a really good way to go. And in the past when we've done games like this, I've always tended to pick the engineering background when you can choose something like that. So let's go with that.
And tell us a bit about this HQ. How well developed are the facilities here ahead of our debut season?
So this is where we set up our team. Very familiar sort of mechanics here where you have 3 different levels, and if you want an easier start to this My Team career, you can go for advanced or extensive. You guys know me. You guys know how it works with this My Team series, how I've always done it. When we start things off, we start off from the very bottom. This is a big road to glory project to try and take a team from the very bottom to the very top. So we're going to go with the basic facility investment.
Hello, Mathis, head of your engineering facility. Let's discuss where we think we are in terms of car performance.
And the same thing here with the car development. Like with the facilities, we'll be starting with no development from the very bottom. It's going to be a real struggle to claw in some performance at the start. And it's a case of, as usual, you kind of have to get some momentum and domino effect going to really start to find, you know, some ground on the AI. But that's the fun of it. That's the challenge of it in Season 1, isn't it?
Hey, boss. I'm Anissa. I head things up in your corporate facility. Let's discuss our financial situation.
And just as was the case with car development and the facilities, we'll be starting off with the lowest amount of cash possible.
Right. With all that out of the way, our next task is to finalize our team's visual identity, our official name and branding.
Okay, now we're getting into the good stuff where we get to shape our team's identity. The team name, of course, is going to be the return of Aarava Archer Racing. Oh, it's good. It's good to type that out. It's been, like I said, a whole game cycle since F123 since we have typed out that name on an EA Codemasters F1 game. And of course, as you may have guessed from the prequel video, I am returning Aarava Archer Racing to its roots. When I first started my first My Team career on F1 2020, I told you guys I wanted to base the identity off Brawn GP because of my all-time favorite F1 driver, Jenson Button, and that is what we are returning to after a break of that identity on F1 22 and 23. So it's been actually 2 full games since we last actually donned these colors as the main team colors.
Next up, there's an amount of contract work we need to get nailed down.
Now, this section will be very familiar with those of you who've watched the series before.
First, we need to settle on our title sponsor. This will represent a key source of income over the coming season.
But unlike previous games, for the first time, we've got to pick a title sponsor that will actually matter.
We have a few potential sponsors lined up. Each contract splits our income in 3 ways. A signing bonus that we receive now, a weekly income paid over the course of the season, and finally, a bonus at the end of the season, if we achieve the goals set out in the contract.
So we've got 3 to pick from. Fairly similar signing bonuses, really. Very different goals, though. You know, scoring 10 points, finishing 10th in the championship, only scoring 5. But we've also got different backstories for each of these. We've got innovation and technology with Exxon there. We've got X4MIG, performance excellence, and Seren, fan engagement for their like core values. And then if you click into them, they've all got individual backstories and kind of lore as well. So I really like that, you know, trying to immerse you in a bit of a story from the off when you make up this team. So for example, X4MIG, established in Germany in 1891 by Felix Hermann. X4MIG initially specialized in engineering of precision machinery for various industrial sectors. Today, X4MIG stands at the forefront of engineering, pushing the boundaries in automation technologies, robotics, and high-tech manufacturing. I feel like that plays into the background we've chosen for ourselves as a head engineer. Let's just go ahead and look at the new loyalty rewards that now come with the title sponsors.
This is our title sponsor, which are responsible for the bulk of our team's income. While much of that income is paid weekly, a large part is dependent upon us meeting our contractual obligations and hitting our seasonal goal. As we develop our relationship with this sponsor, we'll increase their loyalty, which over time can result in further benefits. That said, as our team's fan rating grows, we may be able to attract more valuable title sponsors. So, knowing when to prioritize building loyalty over the financial benefits of a more lucrative sponsor is something we'll need your guidance on.
So a new mechanic now on this game is loyalty rewards that as you stick with a title sponsor, obviously you build a rapport, you build a relationship, there's trust there, you know, more funding might come in and you unlock perks as well of different decal designs so you can then get more interesting logos to then use on your car as you go on.
Secondly, we have to make a call on which engine supplier we want to work with this season. Generally speaking, our choices can be defined as a trade-off between performance and durability, with the caveat that neither come cheap.
So next up to choose is our engine supplier. Of course, the usual 4 options of the Renault power unit, the Honda, which is badged obviously at the moment as Red Bull powertrains, Mercedes and Ferrari. I think what makes the most sense for us as Aarava Archer GP, knowing who we're going to have as our number one main driver. I think Honda, it's on par with the Mercedes for performance, maybe lacking in the durability department, but not as bad as Renault, for example, and I think fits the team story as best it can for this first season.
And finally, let's talk drivers. Obviously, we need 2 of them. So let's start with our first one.
Here we are then. For the first time, we're actually picking 2 drivers that will be managing and playing as throughout our entire career. To start things off with this series, I have activated the F3 driver icons, and of course, I have activated the driver icon of Jenson Button, because I am going to be bringing the 2009 World Champion, my favorite driver, back to Formula 1. But alongside him, I really fancy picking one of the F3 driver icons, because for the first time we have some F3 drivers in the game, and I'm going to go for Tim Tramnitz, the German driver, 62 rated, so one of the higher rated F3 drivers. I'm looking at that pace there, nearly 70 pace. I think out and out speed is going to be very useful as a second driver. So out of the bunch, I feel good about picking Tim.
That all looks solid. Good choices, and all within our budget. Feel free to review your choices if you want, but otherwise I think we can move on. Finally, we need to approve our race gear. Don't worry about sponsors just yet, we'll add them later. For now, let's just focus on the livery design and suits.
This is where things get very interesting then. Finally, the race gear with the suits, the gloves, and the car livery. I'm going to start things off with the driver's suit, actually, and the gloves, and then get to the livery. Just keep you waiting a little bit longer. But we had a couple of different options going around here, but I felt this one, it just fit the vibe I wanted to go for this first season with the look of the team. You know, back to basics, the core of Aarava Archer Racing, the Brawn GP sort of revival with that kind of color scheme, and with JB in those overalls. It just works. I think you'll agree. It just fits really well. For the gloves, I'm kind of a sucker for just plain black gloves. Like, always loved when Sebastian Vettel was wearing like completely black gloves on the red Ferrari ovals, for example. I think there's something about it that just works really well for me personally. And then we get to the car livery. So these are the starting liveries you have to pick from at the start of my team career mode. There are a few you can purchase via the podium pass / the kind of, you know, the store area. And one of them is an X4MiG variant. Now, if you have one of these liveries, you can only use it if you have signed that specific title sponsor. So, thankfully, I signed X4MiG, obviously. So, I can use this livery off the bat in this series, and that's exactly what I want to do. I love the patterning of the X's on the front wing, and especially the side pod and engine cover. I think you'll agree, kind of almost mimics the kind of style of livery I designed back in like F1 2021, you know, with the kind of, you know, gridded Aarava logo across the engine cover, and then with a nice design on the nose cone, giving it a little bit of difference, so it's not just fully plain white alongside the fluoro yellow, and the sides as well with the kind of different line work, different finishes on the black with going for metallic and then gloss. I think it all comes together as a pretty decent first livery. As first liveries go on the base game without mods, I think this is probably the best we've had in the My Team series, especially when you think back to some of the really basic ones we had on F1 2020 at the very start of this entire concept.
I think that's everything, boss. If you're happy with all of this, give us the nod. We'll get everything moving. And if not, feel free to go back and review your choices.
I think we're good to go now, but I just wanted to point out, setting up this My Team save of mine, I have put on increased driver moves, the new feature to hopefully encourage more interesting driver transfers as we go from season 1 to season 2. So we won't know the full impact of that until the end of this first season. In terms of the resource sliders, as per usual, I'll be putting myself on reduced resources and cash rate and increased rates for the AI, keeping the sliding scale development on and the player faults to the maximum to get that realism and potluck that is Formula 1. And so with that, we're good to go. Let's launch this team.
Hello and welcome to this very special live stream. Great to be with you all because today we're going to witness history.
That's absolutely right, Natalie, because for so many years we've wondered exactly what 11 teams would look like on the grid. Guess what? Today is the day we find out.
And we are here at the team's state-of-the-art HQ. We'll be seeing their brand new car very soon, but behind every team, behind every car, there's one person central to it all.
Yes, and they've been described as somewhat of an engineering genius, coming up with all the ideas to push the car and the sport to its limits. The question is, though, will they be able to step out of their comfort zone to deal with all the things that come with being a leader, dealing with the team's finances, sponsors, motivating the team and the drivers? Will they be able to juggle that, or will they drop the ball?
And we'll be seeing more behind the scenes as the season progresses. But of course, it is all about what happens on track. So, without further ado, let's see the fruits of their labor, the brand new 2025 car.
That's not the livery I picked. I think that's our testing livery. That's our testing livery, guys. Don't worry, don't worry.
Well, thank you all for joining us. The team have done an incredible job. The car looks sensational.
It certainly does. Congratulations and all the very best for the season ahead.
Team and car launch. Finally, we're at the career hub.
Welcome to your Team HQ. This is the hub of the team's operations, and it's probably worth having a look around, familiarizing yourself with the different areas you'll be responsible for directing. You can use these options to navigate around your HQ. Keep an eye out for notifications. I think Madison Engineering was looking for you earlier, and they were asking for you in corporate as well. You should catch up with them before we proceed further. Oh, and as you look around, keep an eye out for this message. It appears wherever you can summon more information. It's a very useful reference if you want to start digging into the finer detail of how the team functions. This is your activity schedule. Scheduling activities between race weekends lets you and the various facilities focus on specific areas of productivity. You can select the different facilities in your own schedule over here, and then select an activity for them to pursue. Picking the right people to work on the right thing at the right time can give us an edge when we really need it, so don't overlook the value of activities. You should consider setting some now, if you have time before the next race.
So we're all very familiar with the activity timeline, but this has now been made a lot more complex, as you can see, breaking up different activities into the different categories of engineering, personnel, owner, corporate. So different activities under each one means you can do some simultaneously. So it's a bit more realistic with all these activities going on at the same time, because before it was always kind of one after the other. Didn't really make sense because these departments can work separately, and it also just gives us way more to think about every single time we're in between Grand Prix, trying to balance things, making sure we're keeping on top of it, and also making sure we're maximizing every activity we could do in terms of the perks of boosting driver focus. Or you can see, we've got early driver talks for contract negotiations. For engineering, we had, boosting the R&D just a little bit. The owner, we had kind of an onboarding to boost the morale of all the departments. So lots of different things for us to delve into when it comes to activities on this year's game. And obviously right now, as a brand new team, money is a bit short, sponsors are a bit short probably. So on the corporate side of things, I'm very keen to put in the sponsor discovery activities and sponsor kickoff galas to try and aid that and get sponsors to this team ASAP. We then have our team owner area where we can check in on our owner training. So these are the owner perks. You can see that engineering focus is there from my backstory, so we can earn training points to then spend on these perks, and that will benefit many different areas of the My Team career as we go on.
Your team standing on the grid is measured in two ways: fan rating and sentiment. Fan rating is a measure of your team's prestige and history in the sport, and can be increased by completing accolades. Whereas sentiment is more dynamic. a measure of your recent performance both within the current season and looking back to previous seasons. As your fan rating increases, you will earn not only a one-off award for each fan rating level, but also ongoing bonuses that benefit the team. Positive sentiment can unlock more bonuses relative to your fan rating, whereas negative sentiment can temporarily disable bonuses you've earned until your sentiment improves. The combination of fan rating and sentiment will affect many aspects of your career, so keep tabs on them at all times.
So that's the fan rating system. Going to keep a keen eye on that, and obviously, naturally, we'll be earning accolades to boost that as much as we can. Also, you can look at the results and the R&D as well.
Hey, boss. Thanks for coming down. First GP's not far away now, and people are starting to roll off the project as we get more and more of the car locked down ahead of our debut race. We can't afford to lose momentum, so we need to start tasking people with work towards our first upgrade package. As it stands, we already have some resource points, data from testing, that we can use to kickstart our research efforts. We just need to know where you want us to start. Let's go pick an upgrade to research.
Of course, I'm very familiar with R&D, and those of you who've played enough F1 games are going to be familiar with this area, but it's slightly changed this year, with now you having to research the parts first by spending the R&D points. Then you spend a small amount of money then to develop the parts, but there's two different time periods that those happen. So things are a bit more long-term and slow down in a sense, and there's kind of two lots of management you have to do when it comes to now bringing upgrades to the car.
Copy that. That feels like a good place to start. I'll get the research team.
So off the bat, I decided to do a weight reduction upgrade. I always feel like the My Team cars are very overweight and heavy compared to the AI teams around you, especially the nearest air arrival even. And then at the same time, just wanted to get some downforce on the car. So we went with the rear downforce instead. I'm hoping the front end will still be pointy enough just with the handling to be okay. But eventually, obviously, we'll level out the downforce as well. And then eventually, once we've developed these parts, we'll have to also work on assigning them to each individual driver.
Okay, this is the facility improvement screen. Here are the improvements you can currently schedule for this facility. You can access the other facilities and explore their improvements from these tabs. Some improvements need us to have completed other improvements first. If an improvement is blocked, it will be listed here, along with information on which improvements we need to complete first in order to unblock it. Each improvement will provide us with an ongoing benefit, but they each also increase the size of that facility. As the facility gets bigger, it will unlock higher levels of that facility, which in turn unlock further improvements for us to pursue.
So these are all HQ facility upgrades, but instead of just simply leveling up your facility, your department of engineering, personnel, corporate, you're now purchasing these smaller subsection upgrades, and they all add up into the phase of your department, is how I understand it. So right now, we can't really afford much.
Welcome to the personnel facility. All the money and technology in the world won't help this team if we don't have the right people in place. And this is where we focus on achieving just that.
This is the hub for the team's finances, our corporate identity, and for our ongoing sponsor relations. Speaking of which, it's important to ensure that our new sponsors are reflected in our team's livery.
This next part of the game, though, is going to be very intriguing. For the first time, we've got the decal editor, and this is a way where we'll get some income coming in via the secondary sponsors. So I think because of the nature of the livery that I chose to work with, the primary sponsor is actually hidden underneath the design of the sidepod, which I like, because otherwise that would have looked a little bit ugly. But you can actually go ahead and sign with any of these secondary sponsors right now. Some of them are locked at the moment. We need to increase our fan rating, but I was surprised that you could actually just go for the ones you want. So you can actually just design the car how you want. If you like the logo of one brand, you can pick that, and then you can place it in white or black initially, and then eventually unlock the color versions of their logos. But you can rotate them, scale them, mirror them how you want on each individual bit of the car. So you can see here I'm mirroring this one brand for either side of the front wing to get some sponsors on the front end. You can then go for the rear wing and scale up the sponsor and fill the space. And eventually, as you improve your team, the fan rating, etc., you can unlock more and more sponsors. So you can actually put multiple on the rear wing, multiple on the front wing, side pods, etc. So eventually you can get a very crammed and more realistic looking Formula One car with multiple sponsors on the nose cone, for example. Right now it's kind of a more basic entry with just one sponsor on the nose. I'm still a bit critical that I really wish you could put one of the sponsor decals right by the top of the chassis where you will see it from the T-cam below the halo. I really hope they maybe patch that in as an additional thing from this feedback, because it's always so good to have more decals on the actual T-cam bit that you can see as well as the rest of the car. And then of course you can also go with the custom numbers for the first time to match the team and to not color clash with the base livery you've got. But now for the first time we've got an HQ event.
So, we're gonna need to open talks with drivers for next season. They could be ours, or are currently driving for other teams. You should head to the driver comms page to see who you want to consider. This is where we manage our discussions with drivers, both our drivers and other drivers we might be interested in signing in the future. These slots are for our current drivers. We're obviously much closer to these two than anyone else, but it's still an important job each year, figuring out what's important to them and where their long-term aspirations lie. But we also have to be prepared for the future. If we lose one of our drivers, or if we feel we have a better prospect, it's important to have done the groundwork to allow us to negotiate with a new driver. Or more than one. Just be cautious. The more drivers we engage with, the more likely it is that our current drivers will get wind of it, and that can very much affect how they feel about us and about their future in our team.
So it does seem like very early doors to be talking about driver contracts for next season, but I suppose these things at F1 do kind of start, you know, quite some time before you actually even go to have meetings with drivers. You know, first of all, you got to suss out who's interested, have some feelers, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Obviously, I'll be putting out feelers to re-signing Jenson Button, but who his teammate will be going forwards, I feel like we're going to want to maybe change away from the F3 driver. And one guy I have my eye on is Bortoletto.
I've reached out with a very early preliminary inquiry to their side. I'll let you know how it goes. Hard to get a read on it at the moment. These things are always fluid and move quickly, but if they're interested in us, I'm sure things will move a bit quicker.
I think Bortoletto is going to be a bit of an underrated pick in this career. I think 74 rated, maybe a little bit cheaper than some of the other drivers around him. And obviously you guys will know if you watch my manager series, I wanted to sign Bortoletto in my manager series and I didn't get the chance to. So it'd be cool maybe to sign Gabriel here in this series. And I've also put out a feeler for Isaac Hadjar, or, you know, I want to, because I think, again, I reckon they'll boost Hadjar's driver rating in a patch, in the first patch of rating updates. So going for Hadjar now, yeah, like if we get to that point for season 2, might be a good play, because then we'll kind of get a free upgrade on him as a driver maybe. And also in real life, obviously, I think, you know, everyone can agree he's become a very, very likable character.
A sponsor sees potential in us and wants to explore a partnership.
Now, this is pretty damn cool. I think this comes from our corporate activity choice of the scouting for a new secondary sponsor, and it's come back with a result. So JPB is a brand new secondary sponsor that wasn't available to us. We can now add them onto the car, and that will give us a tiny bit of extra income. So I'm actually going to swap out one of these slots with JPB, because we actually have that brand elsewhere on the car. I think it's useful to have as many different brands and sponsors on the car as possible, basically. So make sure to fill up all your spots is going to be my top tip, with different sponsors on the car. So this is what the car is looking like now. You can see a few different sponsors on the front wing, the nose cone, the engine cover, rear wing on the top flap, the sides as well, and also the side of the chassis. So we've maxed out all the slots available at the moment. So with that, we are nearing the point of being ready to go towards the start of the season. We've obviously got the developments now to come in.
Great news. One of our research upgrades is complete. Once we finish researching an upgrade, we can start developing it for one or both of our cars. Head over to the development screen to get started.
So we'll go ahead and spend money on developing. We have to pick single development right now. Eventually, if we have the facility improvements, we can do dual development. But right now, I can only develop one upgrade at a time, which means I will only be able to give one of our drivers this upgrade first of all, initially. So already a choice of priorities being taken in this career series as we now go to the new season grid reveal. So the grid has been revealed and we're at the home stretch now towards the first race of the season, just maximizing the activity timeline as much as we can. I put the personnel upgrades to boost the focus of our drivers at the very end, so they're the most focused going into Australia.
Good news. The research for an upgrade is complete, and it's now ready for development. Make sure to head over to the development area when you have a moment.
Research complete now on an engine upgrade as well, because off camera I actually upgraded that as well with the extra R&D points we were earning just going through the various weeks, of course, because there's quite a lot of days from the start of the season to now. This is the R&D chart first of all there, so just a quick look at that. So we've got a lot of work to do just to bridge the gap to the next best team of Kick Saubers. As per usual at the start of this My Team series, we are going to be, you know, at the back. Our teammate is probably not going to perform very well at all. Obviously, I'm hoping myself as a driver can make a bit of a difference here. We did have also, by the way, a delay on the development, on the research, I should say, of the chassis upgrade. So I think we're going to have one upgrade on the rear downforce available for Australia, but the chassis, the weight reduction, and the engine upgrade will have to wait till after Australia. So just one minor upgrade on the car for ourselves that will allocate to Jenson Button, because I think at this stage of the career, having the upgrades going priority to the much higher rated and icon driver makes a lot of sense, of course. I did have a look at some HQ facility upgrades, by the way, but I thought with us only having like, you know, 1.5 million at this stage, let's hold off. Let's assess where the team's at after the first race, and then maybe we can think about spending some cash on a facility upgrade. But let's just head on.
Hey boss, what do you make of this?
Slightly different event now. So this is a bit familiar if you've played the story mode or seen me playing the story mode. It's more of a, you know, kind of sideline story sort of event, kind of, where we've got a hiring campaign apparently, so we can either run the campaign, spend 50k on that, or decline it with a bit of a backstory there. I don't know if this will tangibly mean we can get some better staff, but I thought it makes sense as a new team to run a hiring campaign early doors. So we're going to go ahead. 50k is not that much in the grand scheme of things to us. I think on the top right, actually, you saw that might have boosted the morale of the department. So you're going to want to actually focus on those story decisions. But now we come, finally, guys, to the Australian Grand Prix, round one, and the first time we select which driver we're driving as. And obviously, it's a no-brainer who I'm driving as. I'm going to be stepping into the shoes of Jenson Button on his return to Formula One. I mean, we even have a nice custom Brawn GP fluoro throwback helmet for JB in this season. It's also a nice mash if you've seen his modern helmet that he's racing with in WEC at the moment. We've got that patterning merged with his old school Jenson Button helmet from his Formula One days. So I'm going to love donning that in the cockpit. And it's now time to get a bit buzzing as the drivers enter the Team HQ on the ground here in Australia. And it is time to hit the track for the very first time in F1 25 My Team career.
The long wait is over. This is it, a brand new season. And before the show gets well and truly underway, we've got the all-important matter of a free practice session. It's great to be back.
It is great to be back, and I am very excited to delve into some racing now inside of this career, because as I kind of talked about in my previous video, you know, starting off with Breaking Point 3, the story mode, it was hard to really gauge what the AI was like inside of that mode. Whereas now, this is a first chance to really see if the AI is improved enough to get some better racing to what we've had to deal with on the previous year's F1 game. And then outside of that, just always exciting to hit the track for the very first time and see that new car turn its first corners and laps down under at the rightful place for the season opener. Let's now get straight into the action for qualifying.
And a warm welcome, everybody. We're here in the heart of Melbourne. It's Albert Park, and it's qualifying for the Australian Grand Prix.
This is always a very important moment. The first lap in anger with the My Team car. In Season 1 especially, you know, I always like to think back to this moment when we're like multiple seasons down the line on this game and how basic this car was looks-wise, but also feeling-wise. You know, it's the worst car on the grid. It's the worst the car will ever feel in the entire series. And saying that, it feels pretty all right, you know? I feel like with this year's handling, where it's that happy blend of 24 and 23, like the best bits of 23, taking out that, you know, infinite grip feeling, where it's just a lot more mellow and calm mid-apex and getting on power as well. I think it's made even a bad car like this more enjoyable to drive. Like, I feel like I can get towards the limit of this car, and maybe the lap time's not there, but I still feel in the realm of comfortability driving the car, if that makes any sense. The first lap initially is nothing to write home about, still getting used to, you know, the actual limits of knowing how hard I can push it under braking, which is a big thing on this year's game. The braking seems a little bit longer than it was on F1 24, and generally the lap times also around the circuit are slower than you would have noticed in last year's F1 game. So it takes a bit of getting used to finding where I can really push the car mid-apex as well. Getting on power seems like I feel pretty comfortable with that, but obviously we've had no tyre wear yet. But as I alluded to in the Breaking Point 3 first episode video, the game itself visually, I think for me, playing on my PC with Ultra Max graphics, path tracing enabled, which you need a pretty beefy GPU for, which I thankfully have, this game really has actually taken a step up visually. It looks so much better. It looks gorgeous when you're viewing it and replay cameras. And especially when you get to night races, let me tell you, for the first time, it actually looks like, you know, when we used to have those trailers and it said in-engine gameplay, it finally looks a lot more towards that in-engine sort of recording they used to use only for trailers, but was never available for us playing the actual game. Well, now I think that is definitely the case. So 2 flying laps on the board, definitely on that second one, found a bit more time braking that much later and a bit more confidence on the front end to, you know, really turn it in with some aggression, but that's only got us up to P18. Obviously, our F3 teammate, he is so low rated, I don't expect him to be any higher than the last row of the grid, to be honest, but I want to try and see if we can maybe do anything to sneak into Q2, and to do that, I've had to use my third set of soft tyres, so we're going for broke. We've gained quite a bit of time, again, finding more confidence on the front end into some of these quicker corners, 7/10 in fact, as we go into the last sector, and this might just get us into Q2 at the detriment of that Q2 lap, because I've used all my new soft tyres now, so if this is going to be enough to get through, we might not be able to do a whole lot in the second session, but we've nearly gained, well, just over 9/10. I was going to say a second, but we just lost a bit of time in the last corner, but it's good enough to get up into a P11. I'm really happy with that, finding a load of time at the end of the session. Obviously, track evolution, the track getting quicker, and it's caught out a few people in Q3. Namely, the biggest surprise for me is Alexander Albon in the Williams being knocked out, and I'm sure Isaac Hadjar will be disappointed to be knocked out in the V car. Bortoletto's done amazingly to get up into Q2 in the Kick Sauber, and obviously they're the team nearest to us in the R&D chart that we're aiming for, so we want to try and basically match Bortoletto Bortoletto, but very nice how that, you know, he was the first driver we picked out to maybe have talks with in the future, potentially. Russell's time was a bit precarious in Q1, so definitely needs to pull up his socks into Q2, but like I said, I don't now have any new soft tyres for this session. I only have scrub sets that I used in Q1, so we've made it through into Q2, but at what cost? At what cost? Because it's not going to be an amazingly quick lap. It's probably not going to match the time we did in Q1, but I'm still pretty happy that we got through into the second part of qualifying in this first ever session on the game with this car and series. And to be fair, even though with tyres that are slightly worn, it's a pretty decent showing and decent one and only lap at the end of the session when the track grip's at its highest to get P14. So not actually stone dead last in that Q2 knockout phase, but ultimately knocked out. But Bortoletto, what is he cooking? He's got into Q3 in the Kick Sauber. That's incredible. Ollie Behrman as well. Amazing performance in the Haas to be P8. So Antonelli, Bortoletto and Behrman, the three rookies, into the top 10 shootout. And it's at the cost of the likes of Carlos Sainz, P11. Russell, P15. We out-qualified George Russell driving as Jenson Button. We've got to be happy about that. I will very much take that as a Q2 result, and that's gonna give the good vibes as we now head on into Sunday for the first Grand Prix of the entire series.
The winter is over. It's time for Formula 1 2025. Yes, that long break that you've all been coping with so well can now be put to the back of your minds. It's on-track action and it's off-track drama. That's what we're looking forward to. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And Lando Norris lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Piastri, Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, and Tsunoda, Fernando Alonso, Antonelli, Behrman, and Gabriel Bortoletto, Sainz, Stroll, Liam Lawson and Button, Russell, Gasly, Esteban Ocon and Jack Doohan, Hadjar, Albon, Hulkenberg and Tim Tramnitz rounds off the grid. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. And with me for this commentary this afternoon, former racing driver Naomi Schiff. New season, new dawn, and now 22 cars and 11 teams on the grid.
First of all, this is such an exciting time. I mean, to have an 11th team on the grid is exciting news for the sport. But for them today, I guess you would be really nervous. It's the first time you're going to be doing this. There is so much to learn. But at the end of the day, they've got to remember that expectations aren't that high. They've all been there before. They've all had their first race, and no one is expecting them to land on the top of the podium. So just learn to walk before you can run.
Strategy-wise, it looks to be a 2 versus 1 stop. You know, the soft tyre not even involved, medium to hards, or 2 sets of mediums, and then a hard. I think we'll initially plan for the 1 stop, but I'm really not sure about the tyre wear levels in the game itself, but also this team. Remember, we're the worst team on the grid, so our tyre wear levels compared to other teams will probably be the worst out of the lot. So our car physically may not be able to maybe pull off a 1 stop, you know, cleanly without having some rear end or traction issues, which, knowing me, having a lead foot could be a problem. So we're going to plan for a 1 stop, but going to hards for the first pit stop will leave us open to maybe pivoting to a 2 stop if we feel like we can't hack it with the high tyre wear versus our rivals around us. We're keeping our options open because it really is a massive stab into the unknown, but that's equally why it's so exciting every year. But this year, maybe more than recently, because after a big break from My Team Career Mode, the last time we did this series was on F1 23. We are back. It is My Team 2.0 now on F1 25. A clean slate, another story to form, as we go to 5 red lights. Aarava Archers' first race in Formula 1 is underway. Lights out. It's a cracking start versus the hard tyre runner of Carlos Sainz. Stroll gets caught up behind Bortoleto. Another slow starter into turn 1 as Behrman goes side by side with Fernando Alonso. We're up to P11. Bortoleto just mincing us on the exit though, but we've got Stroll who got boxed in from the kickstand, where we're trying our best to hang it around the outside of the Brazilian, but he's done really well on the inside, and we're just also being a little bit overcautious maybe on lap 1, not wanting to be too aggressive, you know, high fuel levels, first real race on the game with this machine, you know, mistakes can happen, so we need to be a little bit cautious on this opening lap and just slowly bed into a rhythm. But as starts go, that's pretty damn decent, up to P11 from P14, you know, made the most of Sainz being slow off the start on hards and Stroll getting caught up behind the Sauber, like I said, and now trying to stay ahead of that very man on the soft compound. Might be a bit tough, but I'm going to use the DRS from Bortoleto as a bit of an aid, and obviously he's going to help us along here, but there's a gap already forming to Fernando Alonso, so Bortoleto may be a bit of a cork in the bottle for us as we try and go to the inside, but Bortoleto very nicely defends kind of very awkwardly the middle of the track. Really couldn't feel comfortable committing to the inside there. Couldn't go to the outside either way as well, so Bortoleto frustrating us, but it's definitely promising to see early doors, the AI being very active in their defensive work and attacking, I should say, as well as Lance Stroll tries to go around the outside. Of course, he is the quicker man at the moment on the softs, but the more we can frustrate him, the better off we're going to be, because eventually those softs will wear out, and he's a very odd man out on the softs, I must say. Most people around us on the medium or the hard, but you get the sense that we can have Bortoleto, as it's good to see ahead of Bortoleto. The grid is starting to string out a little bit. There's a train behind me, but that's because we're yet to overtake Gabriel, so we really need to get past him because there's more pace to be had in the clean air. So now using the DRS and a little bit of battery work on the outside, Bortoleto on the inside, we give him a bit of a squeeze, then go back to the racing line, give him the room to work with, but we make the overtake up into P10, and straight away we're met with a lovely battle ahead of us. Side by side is Fernando Alonso and Ollie Behrman. Cracking little fight there as the Haas on the inside squeezing Alonso out. That's really promising to see. AI on AI battle with the heavy fuel loads as well. That's what you want to see. That's a bit more like it, as Verstappen is the one that leads the way though, by the way. Lap 5, Lewis Hamilton second place though. The McLarens, where is the pace gone from the all-conquering McLaren? Well, it's because both the drivers are on hard tyres. The Ferraris and Red Bulls, they've started on mediums. The Papaya outfit, they've decided to go very different and started on the hards. Now, I feel like eventually that will be a hindrance to them, because right now Verstappen and Hamilton are streaking away a little bit from Tsunoda, who's doing a real good job of holding up Leclerc. So McLaren might come to regret that strategy decision, but you got to say, it's good up and down the field. You're seeing the AI choose very different tyre strategies clearly, as we now focus back on the top two, because look at this, Lewis Hamilton going round the outside, leads the Australian Grand Prix now on lap 5 in the Ferrari. This is the dream scenario people were hoping for in real life. A Hamilton v Verstappen fight, and it's the Ferrari that leads. The McLarens nowhere near their real life pace here in the Australian Grand Prix, but down to the tyre choices. Antonelli doing well in P7 whilst his teammate languishes in P13, but Russell trying to find his way through on the outside of Stroll, and Behrman and Alonso still very much fighting ahead of me, and I'm really hoping that Behrman and Alonso fight enough that I can get involved as we focus now on Tim Tramnitz, our teammate, of course, one of the F3 driver icons, doing quite well actually. P19 ahead of Hajar, Sainz, Gasly. That's a couple of good names to be ahead early doors in this race, as Russell still continues to try and get that move done, or in fact I think it's the other way around. I think Lance Stroll has re-overtaken George Russell, the Aston Martin, frustrating the Mercedes car for sure there, as Alonso actually losing the back end of Ollie Behrman, and maybe that's time for us to start snapping at his heels. Back to the fight with some of the top teams though, and that's Leclerc getting past Tsunoda, or Tsunoda actually maybe going for the repass. It's really hard to tell as these guys are fighting aplenty, and it's a really really great commitment from Yuki Tsunoda on the outside, as Alonso must have heard me in the commentary box, because he's got a move on now and is attempting another pass on Ollie Behrman. Is he going to commit to the outside? He is. Some great moves happening in this last sector, and these two are loving this side-by-side in the last couple of corners, but they're slowing each other up so much, and you can see Alonso backing out of the throttle, knowing when to back down. But that's invited us in now to a three-way fight with DRS wide open for us. We go down the inside. Easy does it though into the corner, because I was sure that Alonso was going to pinch us. We're cutting from the right to left. Alonso tries to block, but we've got the overspeed on the outside to try and make this move. Alonso's still on the inside. We give him the room to work with, but we get the overtake done. But then we drift it through the next corner, lose the back end, and Alonso's right back past us. Little mistake from me, probably overcooked the tyres making the initial move on Alonso. It was well held from me, to be fair, going opposite lock and just using the runoff area to good use to carry on going, because that could have been really bad if that was a full spin. But just showing mistakes very easy when you're fighting on heavier fuel. But we're going to come back at Alonso, this time a bit more of a usual place to make an overtake, right round the outside into the high-speed chicane, the place I was actually sat at for the real life 2025 Australian Grand Prix. That place was, so great action being had there, just as was the case in real life, as it's Leclerc now ahead of Tsunoda. The two McLarens still unable to make any sort of inroads, but they're on the hard tyres, that's why. And Hamilton has got the afterburners on, because he's streaking out into the lead, and the very much opposite is happening with his former teammate of Mercedes. It was a horrible qualifying. Maybe this is why he was having engine issues maybe on Saturday, because it's carried over to Sunday. First race of the season, and Russell is out. That is going to be painful, and it means the youngster Kimi Andrea Antonelli, the lead Mercedes car in this race, P7, as we get repassed by Fernando Alonso, or at least he tries to, as we go on the outside on the racing line. Easy does it, but the tyre wear you can see on the right hand side is pretty high. I feel like it's a bit higher than the teams around us. Definitely higher than the Aston and the Haas, it would seem, because I can't now keep up with Ollie Behrman, and I am now considering we maybe move to the 2-stop as Leclerc gets done by Tsunoda. It's a 2-3 now for Red Bull again, but look at Lewis, 4 seconds the gap is, so Hamilton has really got the bit between his teeth, as it's overcast conditions, but a bit of sun maybe just peeking out now on the main straight, as Alonso again tries to pass us. This time he's done really well to keep it side by side on the exit at turn 1. Bortoletto sniffing around. I am struggling to keep Alonso at bay. My tyres do not feel great. It's lap 9. It's a little bit early to think about a pit stop, and thank God I didn't come in on that lap. I was tempted to, but as we get onto a new lap, you're about to see a message pop up for my teammate in the pit, so I would have held him up if I came in on that lap. So thankfully I've decided to come in on the next one, lap 10, but I need to. Behrman has come in as well, Bortoletto as well. Alonso continues on though, so I have a feeling Alonso might be going for the 1-stop, but I think Behrman is joining me on a 2-stop. It's going to be interesting to see what tyre he chooses, because I'm still going onto hards to leave us open there, but it's a good pit stop. Oh, cracking pit stop. 2.4, and that's seemingly quicker than the Haas team, because we get ahead of Behrman. We ghost through, thankfully, so if that was a no ghosting system, that would have been a monumental crash, but we have ghosted through, and we're up to P15, but Behrman's chosen the medium, so he's committing to the aggressive 2-stop, 2 sets of mediums to start the race, whereas I'm saving that second medium potentially for the end of the race, but I want to see maybe how this hard tyre stint goes. If we can go to the end, I will try it, but based off that medium tyre stint, it seems like this car at the moment just doesn't have the tyre wear maybe to hack it at the moment. Maybe with 1 or 2 upgrades, we could be, you know, in line to trying to pull off a 1-stop, because I feel like in these early stages, that's a good way for you to gain points and get those positions, is just having track position. As Behrman makes quick work of us with DRS. I don't put up too much of a fight because he's on mediums. He's going to be quicker in this stint. It's all about patience for me now and just doing my race on the hards, seeing if we can stick with Behrman and picking off people that are struggling, like Carlos Sainz clearly is, because he's going very slow on that first set of tyres he's been on since the start of the Grand Prix. And it's really about how we do later on in this race, after maybe some tyre wears kicked in for others on their mediums, and can we now hopefully stay ahead of the likes of Ocon as Behrman goes for the pass on Sainz. We aggressively defend Ocon, and now Sainz really slows up Ollie Behrman, so this is maybe a chance for us. Can we catch Behrman napping? I mean, can we get Sainz? Definitely, because he's very much struggling on those mediums, but Behrman's now fully ahead, so maybe the chance is gone. I thought for a second maybe could we get a double pass done, but Behrman clearly has so much pace on those new mediums, and Sainz is really struggling on his old ones. And to be honest, this is why I came in earlier for the hards, because this would have been my pace, because I was really struggling. And it's really crucial now that we get past Sainz, get into that pocket of clean air just behind the Haas. Both of us have DRS though, and Sainz, really aggressive, shuts the door, gives us no room to work with on the inside. We almost invite Ocon in, so there's honestly some really decent defensive driving from the AI so far in race one, but Sainz eventually is no match for us into turn one. We get to the inside, it's a punchy late brake move, and we needed it done because he's on old mediums. We need this clean air, but despite that, you saw there Sainz actually tried to repass us, so we had to go defensive ourselves, and now we can push away a little bit and use the clean air, as it's now a 1-2 for McLaren. Obviously, they've been on their hard since the start of the race. They're still going on, whereas the two Ferraris and Red Bulls have made their pit stop. So Hamilton coming out ahead of Leclerc, seemingly, who's managed to undercut, I assume, Verstappen. So it's now 3-4 Ferrari. It's a kind of Noah's Ark. 2 McLarens, 2 Ferraris, 2 Red Bulls. The McLaren's yet to pit. Ferrari and Red Bull, I feel like, in the driving seat, though. And then, you know, a very good day in the office so far for V-Carb, seemingly. Lawson and Hajar, P7 and 9. Albon recovering well so far, having been knocked out in Q1, but I don't think he's pit yet, P8, so we'll see how it shakes out. But we've come out just behind Antonelli, who's made his and one and only stop as he comes out to hards. But you saw there, the Merc went to lap, what was it, 14, 15 on mediums, whereas I and, you know, Behrman and, you know, Bortoletto, we could only hack it 9, 10 laps on mediums. So clearly you can see there is a tyre wear performance difference between the top teams and the midfield to bottom. So we shouldn't be too concerned that we're having to maybe bail onto the 2-stop, because it's just a case of we need to make those upgrades. There's good fighting going on between Stroll and Behrman now, and these two are holding each other up so much that Antonelli is getting involved, I'm getting involved, but we're being patient because I feel like there's no point trying to overtake Antonelli because he's in a much quicker car. We know he's going to mince us, so let's just stick behind Kimi and almost try and hopefully follow him through, because he's got to be like a hot knife through butter on Behrman, on Stroll. So if I can try and stick with Kimi, we can maybe, there's a double lockup from Behrman, we can maybe get through, but right now it's quite tough, you know, because the AI are not only good at defending against myself, but they're good at defending each other, and that's creating some really good dynamic racings and battles, but it's making things difficult for us in a car that obviously doesn't have the out-and-out pace. I am just living off, you know, catching people unawares and trying to catch them with the DRS if we can. As Antonelli overtakes Behrman, can we now get onto the back of him? To be fair, lap 18, Behrman now should be feeling the tyre wear on that second set of mediums, because he's probably going to be pitting in the next 2-3 laps. So now is the time where we're probably on the better race tyre and we've probably got better race pace than our fellow compatriots. So let's try and get Behrman if we can. We couldn't manage it in the first stint. Can we get it done in this second stint and have a bit of fun with the Haas, a car ahead of us in the R&D shot? It's a good little follow through of the high-speed chicane. We've caught Behrman a little bit. DRS open. Behrman goes defensive. Does he? No, he sticks to the racing line, leaves the door open, and we're just going to send it through. Behrman leaving us enough room to work with. Can we get to the inside for the next corner? We plant the power. To my surprise, Behrman committed through there, makes a bit of contact with us, and overtakes us. We go for the switchback, but it's futile. He pits. Of course he does. He's done the work his team wants us to. He's held us up, and now he peels into the pits. But that was really great. I was so caught unawares that Behrman was going to keep his foot flat through that right-hander before the second last corner. I thought I had him, but to my surprise, he was there. He still was going for it. So that's very, very good to see. And it's good to see battles happening all the way up and down the field as Sainz and Gasly fight. But Sainz has just met the back of the kick Sauber with damage now. Meanwhile, for us, we've got Yuki Tsunoda for company right behind us, maybe feeling the pressure and dipping a tyre onto the grass. It's a big snap of oversteer. We've actually done really well in hindsight to keep that out the wall. That's 2 close shaves in the first race. Really is all about trying to get the rust off my driving. It's been a long while since we've done a proper career mode video, and you can maybe tell with a few moments of scariness there, but equally it's just a tyre also maybe of the hards kicking in. But Tsunoda gets us. He was always going to get us. Verstappen now putting the pressure on Leclerc. The 2 McLarens, they've pit for their mediums and they've come out behind, so they've got a lot of work to do. McLaren, they may be regretting starting on the hards, having a car as quick as they do, as we now come in lap 20, because that near miss just before Tsunoda got us was my cue to come in. To be fair, 9 laps to go. 9 laps, we felt the tyre wear 9 laps in the first stint on the medium, so this is probably the right time to come in for that second set, and we're just going to come out ahead of Ollie Behrman. So, yeah, the car can't quite do a one-stop yet, but let's see what we've got now, because we're out of sync. We're now the ones on the quicker tyre. Behrman, Hulkenberg on the hards behind us, so we shouldn't be threatened by Ollie Behrman, and we should be able to push flat out now, knowing that, 9 laps is within the realm of the medium tyres. Let's see. I'm still quietly confident we could do some good work here and chase after the cars ahead of us. We've got a lot of clean air to work with. Doohan, Albon, Lawson fighting, and Albon makes a great move on the outside to get up into P9. I think we're aiming for that group, by the end of the race. So let's see as Antonelli chases after Tsunoda. There's a big gap from Tsunoda to the top 5 cars. So that seems like P6 and 7 settled between those two. Lawson now getting Doohan. So Doohan loses 2 places in the span of 1 lap. Maybe he's due to come in for a pit stop. I don't know. As Verstappen is all over the back of the first Ferrari in his line of sight to the race lead. Leclerc is got to be trying to defend this for Hamilton's sake, for Ferrari's sake, but Verstappen is going to have the DRS. Lewis is not giving Charles the DRS, so there's no teamwork happening here, and Verstappen is going to make quick work of him on the outside up to second place, and now he sets his sight on chasing after Lewis Hamilton. It's another chance to have maybe Verstappen v Hamilton, Red Bull v Ferrari, and I have a feeling Verstappen is going to be going like the clappers to try and chase after him. Meanwhile, lap 21, replay here of Gasly at the bottom of the field. He was already having troubles in this race, but now it's double trouble. He is out with a mechanical fault, and so that's 2 DNFs in this race of Pierre Gasly and George Russell, as Leclerc actually might come back at Verstappen. Tyre on the grass, but he is going to commit to the outside, and the Ferrari does repass. So this might just give Hamilton a little bit of breathing room, as it's 1-2 for Ferrari once again. But look in the background, Norris now lurking in the distance. Are the McLarens going to join the party? They're on the mediums, remember. Ferrari, Red Bull on the hards. It's the same way as myself on the mediums, chasing after a bunch of people on the hard tyres. But Verstappen is relentless and repasses Leclerc with 5 laps to go. Is he going to be able to shake Leclerc, or is this going to be a case of Leclerc annoying Verstappen enough where he just can't catch up to Lewis Hamilton? And speaking of catching up, we have bridged the gap to Lance Stroll on the hard, and we're coming at it at a rate of knots. It's actually an easy pass there. Stroll doesn't make much of a fuss, and we obviously have the overspeed with a bit of DRS and ERS usage. Really using quite a bit of battery now in this later stage of the race, down to single digits, but it's fine going to none. You'll notice most big braking zones trying to regain some of that harvest energy and then using it tactically when we need to make the overtakes. Medium for the most part, whilst we're trying to catch up to these guys, and I still reckon we can maybe catch up to these two, right for the last point. P9 versus P10, I still believe we could maybe get 1 championship point on debut here in Formula 1 as a team. Obviously not a debut for Jenson Button, the 2009 world champion, but debut for Aarava Archer Racing in F1 2025. As we're closing up to Doohan now, who's really struggling for pace. Obviously he got double overtaken by the two we're trying to ultimately chase after, Albon and Lawson, as we fake to the right, go to the left, and it's going to tighten up Doohan's line. We go around the outside, and we're now into clean air, 3.2 seconds worth of it, and we've got, what, 4 laps to go, including the one we're on. It's time to push like an absolute stabbed rat, take every bit of tyre life out of this medium tyre, and see what this car can do on lower fuel, obviously, in race conditions, and see if we can maybe make a miracle work and get 1 championship point or 2. Who knows, but right now Lewis Hamilton still leads the way, but the gap is now creeping down to just maybe under 1 second. Is this going to be a race victory decided in the final laps of this first ever Grand Prix on F1 25? Verstappen sails round the outside, Hamilton defenseless on the inside, but he's maybe got time to come back at Verstappen, but Leclerc might be saying otherwise. Hamilton goes immediately defensive again as Leclerc now is attacking him, and this is going to hand Verstappen the victory, surely. The 2 Ferraris, oh, it's a lovely battle and squabble, but to the detriment of them as a team, because neither of them are going to win this now. Look at the amount of time they've lost battling each other. They're going to have to debrief about that, because it's now 2.1 seconds the gap to Verstappen. Hamilton holds on to second, Leclerc third, but ultimately either of them have lost the chance for victory, because it's now all of a sudden the last lap, lap 29, and unlike in real life, the McLarens have been nowhere owing to their awful strategy. I'm sure they've actually got some genuine race pace in there and some just quality pace, because I think it was Lando on the front row, but they just really got the tyre choices wrong today as a team. Antonelli P7 behind Tsunoda, Alonso P8 doing really well on a 1-stop for him. Sadly, we just couldn't hack it. I'm convinced, you know, maybe you'll say in the comments we could have done a 1-stop. I don't think so. I think we would have got minced by Alonso at this point of the race and by Albon and Lawson. At least now we have a chance to catch up to them. But it's Max Verstappen that crosses the line down under for the first win of the season, ahead of Leclerc, who did get Hamilton on the last lap for second place. And here we are now on the last lap, last sector, last couple of corners. Can we do anything to get 1 championship point? We're so close to a point. We've got battery to use, but our tyres are going. Oh, the rear end steps out, and we are narrowly going to miss out on a first championship point on debut for this Aarava Archer Racing team. Oh, we got close, but you know what? I had a lot of fun pushing there at the end on that medium tyre. A lot of fun, and the point is going to come. I'm sure of it. But what a first race!
And in the end, there was no Verstappen. Max Verstappen, he takes victory.
And to get a victory at the first race of the season, this might be a sign of things to come. One thing's for sure is that this performance will be giving the team and the driver relief and confidence going into the rest of the season.
It's time to bring out the bubbly and spray it around. It's our podium celebrations. But there can only be one on the top step. Your number 1, Max Verstappen.
We may not have any points to show for it as a team, but we're only 1 point away from where Williams are, only 2 away from VCarb, and it's very early days in this first season, and it was a pretty damn good one. I'm cautiously optimistic of what I've seen from the AI today. Obviously, it's going to take a whole season to really get a better picture, but for what I've seen, I've got some hope, a lot more hope than I had this time last year for F1 24, let's say. And like I said, visually, the game is looking like a stunner. Handling, I'm loving it. So overall, really happy with this first round and first episode. Hope you guys are as well. If you have enjoyed it, hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.